And we are going to talk about new construction.
New construction.
It's
Yeah.
like a thing, man. Like we're seeing a lot more new construction, but
Yeah.
there's a wrong, and a lot of agents don't know what to do. Like,
Yeah. So I
what
think
did
we're
you
going to see a lot more of it too. We're going to have a lot of opportunities with the market shifting
Yeah,
where new construction is going to make a lot more sense for real estate agents.
yeah,
Um, we kind of had this seller's market where, real estate agents, we were seeing some pretty interesting commissions on new construction.
yeah.
And I think some of it was like, I mean, we'll do it, but yeah, it wasn't something that we were just thrilled about because there was not a lot of money in it. And I don't know about you, Jen. I work to make money to feed my family, so that's something that I care about a little bit.
Well, I mean, that can be solved with a hiring agreement with your client and what the cost is.
Right.
Maybe.
That
Uh,
is true. Yeah, and but those are. I think we're heading back into normalcy when it comes to new construction, and the commission opportunities are going to be there. So it's probably a good thing to understand how to handle as a real estate agent.
what do we think is the most common way to handle it? What I'm seeing is like they don't really, what happens is the buyers go rogue and they aren't, because there's no buyer consultation with the agent. So they don't understand that we can, and it's better if we're able to represent them. Otherwise, they are unrepresented in the transaction, which is never really good. So
It's
they'll go
never
in,
good.
yeah, they'll go in and they'll walk into the builder and they'll start like building their dream house, but now you're unrepresented, and the builder's rep can see that you're just gonna, I mean, come on, they're in sales too, right? They're like, oh, you want to add this, you want to add this, and all of a sudden you've got this house where your budget was, maybe 450, and now your house is 650.
Yeah, and this is super common. Pricing with new construction is a starting point, not an ending point. Whenever
Right.
you see it listed,
And there's
so
never a
what?
refrigerator. Makes me
There's
crazy.
never a refrigerator. I know that is not acceptable. So here's the other thing: not all new construction contracts are equal.
Yeah.
There are some that have some really weird language about the ability to raise prices. Meaning that if supplies go up, price can go up. So you're not necessarily locked in. And that's something to me that like I would want to know that as a buyer because there's not always that much meat on the bone with pre-approvals that you can just raise the price by
To
$100,000.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is the right way if I'm an agent and I have a client, I've done my buyer consultation and where they're looking and their price point, new construction is an option. So what is
Yes.
the right way to represent a client? Like, what should we do?
Yeah, in my experience, and I've done this the wrong way. So just know that I'm not. When I started, I was not taught, in my opinion, the right way to handle new construction. So I did it the wrong way. So the first thing that you've got to get right, or everything else doesn't matter, is you've got to be the one to reach out and contact the rep.
Mhm.
If your client does it, you're gone. I
You're
mean,
out.
it
So
does
how do
them.
you know like what their options are and who to contact?
Yeah. So what? And this is something that if you're new in the business, like basically new construction is going to be broken down by price points. So there's certain builders that can do 300 to 400. There's certain
Mhm.
builders that can do 400 to 600. If you don't know those answers, you've got to use the people in the business that do. Reach out to people and say, "Hey, my folks are interested in building 450 in
Right.
Mainville. Who should I call?"
Right.
Got not
You're
only
already
do
connected.
you've got them connected, and then I always send an email afterwards that say, "Hey, just so we're on the same page, John Jones, my client," and then that way there's no guessing.
Right.
And then what we find is we go to the meeting with them. We don't
Mhm.
send them alone. We're
Right.
representing them. We sit down, we go through all the options, the contracts. And my goal at that point is to be the voice of reason and an emotional decision.
Right. So they're
Right?
not like over. I think I want to add just a little bit of caveat to sometimes it can be difficult to register your clients like with everybody, right? So if
Yes.
they're in a specific area, you can also do an MLS search, and most MLSs have like a new construction field or under construction field. and you can see like who are the agents or who are the builders that have been building there for the last like 5 years or something like that. And
Yep.
then that will give you a good idea of the likely ones that they would choose. And it's also important to know like if the buyer already has land, who can build on land and who cannot, because many of them
Yes.
cannot build on land. They want to
Yeah.
build in their neighborhood. So
Yeah.
yes, I agree. I also think prior to setting up the meeting, finding out what the specials currently are, because those seem like they change.
Oh yeah, and I've also found that their builders' websites are oftentimes not updated for years.
Yeah.
So they might show a house that says 350, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, that's a $600,000 house.
Right.
So if clients see that, they're
Yeah.
going in. I mean, we've got to set expectations as
Right.
agents about today's market because, yeah, I just had one recently and I had to have that tough talk. Like, yeah, double that. That's not right.
Yeah. That's the new.
Um,
Right. Okay. So we're there. We've already registered them, the clients. We've set up the meetings. We know the specials. We know their budget. We're the
yep.
voice of reason. We
Yes.
enter the meeting with them and have the initial conversation.
Yes.
Mhm.
Also, and now we're going to look at with financing. I'd say 90% of builders are going to have a relationship with a lender, and
Yeah.
they're going to try to push you that way by giving you a discount.
Yeah.
Um, Typically, that discount comes in the form of credit, where they'll say, "Hey, we'll give you a $6,000 allowance on your sinks,
Right.
whatever,
Or
something
whatever.
dumb." My experience is that's not always the best deal. So we still want to shop versus our preferred lender, who we know is a good lender that can get deals done, and then
Mhm.
compare that to you know J&J Homes lender, whoever.
Or
Uh,
whatever. Right.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's something again. If you walk in by yourself without representation, you're going to go with whoever they tell you to.
Exactly.
So they're incentivized to do it that way. And then
Sometimes it does. I have seen where it has made more sense, but
yeah,
it is all about the math. I mean, that's what lending is, like
yeah.
work out the math and see what makes the most sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd say most of the time we do end up going with the lender that the buyer uses. It usually makes sense, but not all the time.
Right.
So we just want to make sure, like I tend to believe what they say, but I'm always going to double check it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So, okay, um, register them with the potential builders that they could go to.
yep,
Make sure that they understand through the buyer's consultation that we can help.
yep,
This is a good area for us to help in, because there have been times over the years that when I'm talking to a builder, the specials or the ability to negotiate is different than if a buyer is talking directly to the builder's
of
rep or
course.
representative. So we have some negotiation power. And so we go to that first meeting with them, and we're the voice of reason.
You've got it. So we don't want to over improve. We don't want to do gold sinks
Hey,
and
Jill.
toilets. Hey Joe, we love Joe. And so our goal is to stay within the confines of reasonable for that area.
Right.
Um, and then I think the big piece, and this is what I used to do. I was admittedly guilty of this. Is once we go under contract, the contract's done. Basically, I would step back and let it go, and that is absolutely wrong. And I don't do it that way anymore. I make sure that I am completely involved in the process because my goal is this: if you have an issue as a buyer, I don't want you to have to be the bad guy
Right.
because you need these people. You need the contractors. You need the
Right.
foreman. You need them to like you. So you be the one that brings donuts. I'll be the dick. I'll call,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
good with that in a
Right.
nice way.
That's a
Um,
good way to have it, because there are going to be problems, right? Like every
yeah.
real estate transaction, there's going to be issues. So if us as the realtors are the ones that are kind of the bad guy, it's going to look better for the buyer.
Yes. Yes. So, and the fact now that it's such a long process, sometimes over a year to get homes
Right.
built, there's a lot of, as a buyer, you get nervous, you get uncomfortable. So it's really, really valuable to have an agent that can say, hey, everything's okay. I'm checking in. Here's where we are. So you kind of go into that counselor mode.
Right.
Um,
That's
and
every
then
deal.
Yeah, it is every deal, but usually it's 30 days. Now it's 14 months.
Right.
Um, that's a long time.
It's a long
Uh,
time.
and then the last piece that I think is really important is we need to promote inspections along the way
Yes.
with an inspector that is not connected to the builder.
Right.
And here's
I
the
think
thing.
that is a piece that gets missed. A lot of people think, hey, it's new construction. Do we really need an inspection?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, yeah. It can't hurt you. It's affordable. And here's the thing: if it's great, awesome. They'll pat
Great.
you on the back. But if it's not, we want to know during the build, not during that year warranty period that they have to tear walls and so much can be done during the process that is a real pain at the end.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So
All
I
right.
think those are like the big check boxes that I had missed in the past that now I
Mhm.
think are really important, and it makes it a much smoother process. And frankly, if you do a good job, these builders want to work with you. You
Yeah,
actually make things easier for them, not
it is
harder.
easier. Yeah, right. I think too, the only other piece that I would add is just making sure that along with the inspection that there's regular walkthroughs also. So you can
Yeah,
get your as the and then that the agent would go to that as well so
yeah.
that they can get their questions answered along the way and along the process and make sure the deadlines are being met and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really good advice. And the other thing that the last piece that I think is just something that's good to say is realtors that have been doing this for a little bit, like we know the builders that are probably the safest bets to work with, and the ones that we wouldn't allow to build our homes.
Hmm.
And I think that experience on its own is worth the commission that the buyers aren't even paying most of the time. The builder is. So we have so much value in new construction, and I hope that buyers will allow us to show that. I mean, we will save so much money and time.
Yeah, I agree. So Jill said, make sure you have an agent that will still be in the home that will finish.
That's so true.
And
Oh,
a
totally.
builder, right? And a builder that's going to get it done. Because the other thing to know is that the earnest money situation is different and it's higher. And so we
Yeah,
also have to talk to the lender about the different types of loans and the builder about do they own the land already or does the buyer need to own the land? I mean, I think there's just overall there's a misconception that real estate agents can't represent new like people that are buying new construction, and that's just not the case here.
yeah,
And as the agent we need to show, let's see what else Jill says on how to build. You are all spot on. I've been a builder rep, an agent 100 times too, and own a home and build having buyers commission is exactly
yeah, yeah.
perfect.
And Jill, you make a great point. That money is set aside in the builder's budget to actually pay for a real estate agent. If you don't have a real estate agent or your buyer is not represented, that money doesn't go in a
Doesn't come
pot
back to the
forever.
buyer.
No, it's
Yeah,
just left in the marketing fund. Yeah. So, um, if we're not a part of most new construction projects, we're not speaking loudly enough about our benefit in new construction. So we can't make this a secret. We've got to put it out there because we're doing people a disservice if we are not at the table with them.
exactly. Always great tips, TJ. I appreciate it. If people have questions for you or they're curious about maybe joining your team or coming to work with you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, call or text 513-379-2000.
Awesome. I like that at the
Yeah,
end.
that was new.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, TJ.